I noticed like most of your talks are having like the webcam on, right? Yeah, we should have
Yeah,
planned that. Yeah, basically like when we did anything in the this one Mumbai user group or like any other
mhm.
group, we like always thought about not using cameras. So like we followed the
I,
same practice. Next time, let's do.
yeah, sure, sure. I think we are live. Is it? Okay, someone looks like someone started the stream.
Yep. And I
Yeah.
was actually not on mute, so I was okay. I think we can start, right? So it's like at least like
I'm here too.
we can. Hey, hi Alex, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good to be here.
Awesome.
Okay, I'll make sure that next time you have the webcam enabled. Okay.
Yeah, I think it goes better, right, with the attendees
Yeah,
actually
yeah,
watching and you talk at the same time. Yeah.
yeah. I understand. Next time, like we will do something like that. Okay.
Mhm.
So thank you, Santosh, and thank you, like Alex, for being here. Okay. Thank you very much from the Mumbai User Group. Let me quickly introduce what Mumbai User Group is. Mumbai User Group is a community. I and a couple of my friends, we established like a couple of years back. The core purpose of this group was just like knowledge sharing, helping people with whatever we know, and we try to bring up more and more speakers so that they can share their skills. Just making connections. This is the only like the main agenda behind the this Mumbai user group. And I'm very thankful that you two people came and you are like going to share something. So thank you very much. I think what you can do is you people can introduce yourself and like then we can probably maybe in like another 2-3 minutes we can actually start with the session. So why don't Santosh you go and introduce yourself, say something
Uh,
about you. Many people already know you, but still.
it's okay. Alex, you want to go first? That will be great.
I mean, it's your show. You start.
Okay. Okay. Hey everyone. So my name is Santosh Yadav, and I'm born in Mumbai. So yes, I'm a Mumbaiker, and I've been in Pune for like last 4 year, and I'm one of the Google developer expert for Angular, and I also write for indep.dev. I'm pretty much active in open source contributions, so you may find me contributing to Angular and NgRx and few of my own open source projects. And I also write for indep.dev. So any one of you, if you want to actually write something for indep.dev, feel free to actually send me a DM on my Twitter handle or LinkedIn, and we can actually get it reviewed, and then we can onboard you as a writer for indep.dev. And I'm also a mentor for .NET Tricks, where I conduct Angular trainings. And in today's session, we are going to discuss about the NgRx. So we'll start with the basics, and then we will create a small application. It will be hands-on, of course. So we'll create a small application where we'll be using an NgRx Store. We will be using NgRx effects, and then at the end, we will also see how to debug your application using NgRx dev tools. Yep, that's what we are going to do. And then we also have Alex with us. So Alex, please.
Hey, I'm Alex Okrushko. I'm gonna be, helping answer some questions if you guys have specific for NgRx or pretty much anything Santosh wants me to help him with. I'm a Googler. I work with Google on Firebase. I work on the console itself, so I'm a heavy Angular user myself, and I'm part of the core NgRx team. I've been pretty active with the project for a while now, including bringing those beautiful creator functions, and recently component store was behind my effort to bring in to the open source. We probably won't have time to touch a lot on the component store today, but we could probably mention it in a few places. So I'm also in-depth early writer and reviewer, and finally I'm organizer of Angular Toronto. I live in Toronto, Canada. Been here for like 15 years now. Before that, I actually grew up in Ukraine, so that's also another special place for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. One thing to just do, I don't know how, I haven't seen the workshop. One thing though, you would help really like a lot to Santosh and myself is by asking questions. Another thing, just to heads up right away, is there's no bad questions really. Like if you have a question that something's not clear, please go ahead and ask it. It brings the life into the workshop, and it also helps Santosh and myself guide, I think, where like how this workshop goes as well, right, Santosh?
Yes.
Yeah, so please do ask questions. Those are very important. I'm here basically for those questions, really.
And thanks for that.
All right, yeah, off to you, Santosh.
Cool. Okay, so let's start with the history of NgRx. So NgRx was released in 2017. That's what I know. I'm sure Alex knows before that what was going on. But yeah, and it has more than, I think, now 6K GitHub stars, and it was initially created by one of the Googler, Rob Wormold. So he created it, and then he gave it to the community, and now it is managed by Mike Rand and then Roberts. And then we have core team members, Team Alex and Wesley Grims. They are the core members of NgRx, and they are pretty much involved in day-to-day code reviews in case of any bug fixes or suggesting new features, implementing new features. And it is also supported by more than 200 developers, awesome developers, who are actually contributing to open source and making NgRx what it is, right? And let me just introduce what we mean by state so what NgRx basically is. So it's a state management framework for Angular. It's not a library. So NgRx contains a lot of different libraries to work on different parts of the applications. So we'll see different libraries which is part of NgRx, and NgRx Store is based on Redux pattern. So we'll talk about it. NgRx Store, NgRx effects, they were actually they closely relate to Redux pattern. In case you are coming from React background and you know a little bit about Redux pattern, so I think you will be able to relate it. And as I said, it contains multiple libraries, and it promotes the use of functional programming when building reactive applications. We'll see a lot of creator functions, which Alex spoke about. So they are really awesome. I mean, they made our life really easier to write the code. But let's talk about what state management is, right? So in case you have a very large application, very large enterprise application, so there are a lot of data which flies around your application, right? So let's say we have a user. Let's take an example of e-commerce application, right? So in e-commerce application, what you do is once your user is logged in, you have a lot of user state which is available. So your user can have his past orders, your user can have his profile, your user can have a user cart where he can actually save some products before he decides to move them to maybe main cart and checkout. So they are actually your state. So you have to actually go ahead and check, or before you decide to use NgRx, I think you should go ahead and decide what you need to put in state basically. Do we need to put all the data, or do we need to just store some information? That's up to you and your team to decide what to save. But let's say we are into an application, and then let's say a simple application where we have some products, and then you add some product into the cart, and you navigate between multiple pages, and your application state is lost. So of course your users will be confused, right? What is happening here? I just saved some data into my cart and it's not available. So you need state somehow. It can be your front end, or sometime in older days we used to save it in backend, if you remember. So we actually had some MySQL database or SQL database where we used to just dump all the data based on some cart ID. But of course, your API calls are costly, right? So you have to save it somewhere. So eventually people started it saving on front end. Then a lot of people used to have this session storage, local storage thing, which is not safe. So of course, this is where all the concepts came from. Then Redux came into existence, where we can actually have our state managed at front end. Then a lot of I think Flux was also there, which also promotes the same thing. And inspired by Redux, we have this NgRx, which is available, right? So these are the different packages which we are going to talk about, few, not all. And one package which I'll leave to Alex because he created it, and of course we will have some time, he will discuss about it as well. So we have the first package, which is called Store, NgRx Store. So it's a RxJS powered state management library for Angular. So you will see we'll be using a lot of creator functions here in Store. And this is where you can actually relate to, let's say, you have some database, but it is available on your front end. So in NgRx, you can always have a single store. So your entire application, let's say, can have a single database. In whenever you talk about backends or APIs, we can have, of course, multiple databases, which is possible. But when we talk about NgRx Store, we will have a single, we call it as state. But let me just simplify for you, because I'm sure most of you might be from backend and you can closely relate to it. So it will be like store where there is a database, large database for your entire application, and you can decide what to put into that database. Then you have effects. Now, effects are actually related to, let's say, API calls. You might need to actually retrieve some data from your backend, right? Of course, if you have a very large enterprise application, there will be many API calls which will be flying around. So to make or to handle all these API calls, we use effects. Why we need it? Of course, we are going to discuss about it when we write the program. Then we have router store, which is which actually connects the Angular router and NgRx Store together, so you can actually retrieve some data which is available into your router state. So that's possible. Entity is actually NgRx entities. It's built on top of store. So you there are two ways, right? So either I can just decide, okay, this is the data which I want to save into the store, or what I can do is I can already define some entities. What I mean by entities is I already have some predefined interfaces which actually relates to my entity, which basically has a what do you call it, ID, right? A unique ID which is available. So entity offers you some methods which are available. For example, if I want to add one record, right? So entity offers me that. So I don't have to write the logic, how my data will be saved, how my data will be retrieved. I just need to utilize those functions which is available when I work with NgRx entity. So they have functions for adding multiple records, deleting records. They have functions for retrieving single record or updating single record. So all these functions are available in entity. If you don't want to use entity, you can still go ahead and do that using store. But entity is something which you are not going to see today. And then we have NgRx data, which was built by, I think, John Papa. John Papa and there is another person who was involved. And then eventually last year, WordBell. So WordBell, they both together created this project. And last year it was adopted as part of NgRx, and it is to simplify your API calls. So in case you have a lot of API calls, NgRx data can be useful for you, but go ahead and figure out if it's a good fit or not. I never use data. I generally use entity, store, and effects. So store, of course, once you write the program or once you write the project code, you need to debug it. Of course, if you cannot debug a code, that's useless, I think. So store DevTools is something which will help you to debug whatever is happening behind the scenes in NgRx. And then we have NgRx component, which is extension for fully reactive zoneless application. What you mean by is you can actually remove zone.js when using NgRx component. It is a community driven project right now, and I think there are a lot more feature or maybe issues which can come up. So you can decide if you want to use it or not. And the last
just a quick note on the NgRx component. It's a very highly experimental project, and we already anticipate some major different, like there will be a different approach to this. So if you want to play around with it, sure, go ahead, try it. Just don't integrate it in your production applications, please. This is for the NgRx component itself.
And then the last package which we have, component store, which was recently created by Alex. So he was driving this project internally, and then he decided to actually add it as part of NgRx. And it's like local state to manage the local state of the application. I'm sure Alex will talk about in detail later on. But let's go ahead and see what we are going to talk about NgRx Store and effects. So that's what we'll be doing here. So first, Store, as I said, like it's a single database. You can think of it as a single database where you can have multiple slices. So whenever I talk about multiple slices, I'm talking about, let's say, as I've already considered or related to a database. So you can say, if I talk about slice, you can talk about, think of it as a table. So you have, let's say, product as a slice or a product as a state inside your entire global state. And then product can handle all the properties, all the data which is related to product. Then you can have a state for, let's say, orders, right? So I can have a state related to orders where I can have all the data related to my orders. I can have a user state where I can actually save all the user related data, maybe his first name, last name, email ID, which we may want to refer somewhere inside my application. So remember, so NgRx Store lets you share the data within your entire application. Generally, what we do is we retrieve the data whenever we want to, right? So let's say if I'm logged in and I'm going back to, let's say, a screen where I want to edit few records related to user. So what we do is we make a call to the API, then retrieve the data again. But if I'm using NgRx Store, what I can do is I can keep that data into a store, and whenever I want to refer that data, I can directly read it from store. I don't have to make an API call. So that's one of the beauty of NgRx is it reduces your lot of API calls, which are actually, I'm sure, which does not make sense once you have NgRx. It also promotes as you can actually use on push change detection strategy here, because in NgRx Store everything is observable, right? So you have everything, whatever value you receive from store is observable. So you can always go ahead and use on push change detection strategy, because observables are something which will be updated whenever you ask for them, right? So whenever there is a change into your store, it will be automatically given to your component. So your component don't have to actually go ahead and ask the data again. So you can do that using NgRx. You can actually dispatch method. You can also use selectors to simplify those. We'll be also writing some selectors as well. And this is really important. State is single immutable data structure. As I said, you can only have a single state. So you can have only single database which is available, and it is immutable. So we'll discuss about what immutable is. There are three core concepts of NgRx. So action, reducer, selectors. These are three things which we will be writing. And then, of course, to add NgRx Store to your application, you can just say ng-add and NgRx Store. It will configure everything for you. You don't have to actually go ahead and do it manually. Let's talk about immutable first, and then we'll add this NgRx Store to our application. So this is a simple code to represent what we mean by immutability. So here I have an interface iProduct, which has three properties. So I created a new product using this interface where ID is 1, then name of the product and the price. So if I directly go ahead and update some value, let's say name, inside my new product, actually I'm mutating this object. But what you mean by immutable is you always go ahead and create a new object every time. So we use spread operator, and we'll, of course, in our code base also, you will see the lot of uses of the spread operator, which is used to create a new object. So here what I'm doing is I'm creating a new object using new product. I'm just updating the name, and I will get the latest new product, which will be like not rewriting the same object. We are creating a new object. So this is the whole concept behind immutability. I think in case you are from C# background, I'm sure you may be aware of string and string builder, which is string is like immutable, and string builder is something which is mutable, right? You can add multiple string to the same string builder object. So you can build an entire string using that, but with string, it's not possible. So this is a diagram, NgRx Store diagram, which is an official diagram, which is available on the NgRx.io website as well. And this is the concept. So everything resolves around component, right? So component is responsible. So let's go ahead and see this, right? Core concept. So you have action, reducer, and selector. So where they actually fit into our application. So you have a component which will dispatch some action. So what can be an action? For example, let's say adding a new user, right? Or adding a new product to the cart, or maybe login can be an action. So those are the actions which will be dispatched by your component. your component then goes to reducer. Reducers are like your pure functions, which can return a new value every time. So let's say if there is an action called login, what reducer can do, right? So login can there may be some API calls. Now API calls are not handled by reducer because reducers are pure functions. They cannot handle side effects. Now what you mean by pure function and side effects? So pure functions are something which is like, for same input, it will always return the same output. So that's what we mean by reducer. For example, let's say if I have a reducer which returns the login information, it will return login information every time. But if I'm making an API call, there might be some side effects. What you mean by side effects is, it's not 100%. We are not 100% sure that your API call will always succeed. I mean, I'm not sure if I can get API response every time, the same API response every time. Maybe there might be some failure due to network issues, or there may be maybe I just entered the wrong login information, right? So your response will raise an action. Let's say login, right? We just spoke about the login scenario. So action is login action. Effects goes to the API. It gives some data to your backend, maybe your username and password, and it receives your login information, your username, email ID, and everything. And then now it will actually raise an action to update it into store. So that's why you can see a dotted line here. So effects will raise an action, and then it will go ahead and update the reducer. Now, based on what output we have received from effects, is it successful or failure, we can choose to raise appropriate action. And then it will update into reducer. Now, once your data is available into reducer, it will actually update your store. And now, of course, once your data is available into database, what to do next? So you might need to retrieve the data. So how you retrieve the data from database? We generally write SQL queries. So this is how you actually can relate to selectors. Selectors are really close to what we have SQL queries in our backend, or whenever we write our backend application, right? So using selector, you can actually select some part of your store. If I have an enterprise application and I'm putting a lot of data into my store, for example, I spoke about product, I spoke about orders, I spoke about user information, I don't need to actually retrieve all this information every time. Let's say if I'm just onto my product screen, I just need the product information. And how you will achieve that? This is something where we will write selector. So in selector, we can define, okay, I need the data for product, or let's say I need the data for selected product. So this is also possible using selector, and selector eventually updates your component. So this is how your entire flow looks like. And of course, this is the time to see the code. So let's go ahead and see it. Let me share my screen. So what I did is I just created a simple new application, NgNew. There's nothing else. So it's a fresh new application using Angular CLI, and I think it uses the Angular version 10. Yeah, because I just created it right now. And to add NgRx to this application, the first thing which I will do is I will just say ng-add NgRx/store, which will configure everything and add NgRx to the application. And in case you have any question, feel free to ask. I think we also have Alex, so we'll be able to respond to your questions. Okay, so now NgRx is installed, so you can let's go ahead and see what has changed apart from this stuff. Okay, so in app module, you will be able to see, okay, there is a store module which is added, and then there is something called store module for root, where there are some blank values right now because we don't have any store defined or any slice of our store defined. And once this is done, I'll just go ahead and create a new module, which is this is where I'll be writing most of the code. So I'll just say, again, this is NgM product module. So I'll just create a product module with routing. This is actually CLI command to generate a route with component and module. So I'll just say, okay, this is routing, and then hyphen module. I want to add it inside app module, and the route name should be product. It will create a module for us, Okay, so this is the module and this is the component which we have. I also need one routing. So what I will do is I will add Angular material here just to use the navigation schematic which Angular material offers. So I'll say, okay, this is ng-add Angular slash material. So this will add Angular material to our application. And just to show you material, you can actually go to guides and there are a few schematics which is available, and this is how you can actually get those commands, how to add Angular material to your application. And this is the navigation schematic which I'm going to use right now. So I'll say, okay, this is Indigo Pink, and yeah. And I'll use this navigation schematic to add a navbar, and also this is navbar. And I can also pass a flag called --- routing. Okay, because I wanted to create this router links, which is possible by using this flag --- routing. Otherwise, it will give you href, and you can of course go ahead and remove those. So here I'll say, okay, this is product route, and if you go to app routing module, you'll already find this configuration done for us, because the command which we used, it will actually lazy load the component, configure the route as lazy loaded. I'll just put this app navbar into our main component. So navbar is available and visible to everyone. And one more thing which I have to do is, which I generally forget about, to put router link. So you have to put a router link here, because router outlet here. So your routing will work, otherwise it will not. Let's serve the application. Right now we will see a navigation bar. So application with some navigation bar which will be available, and that's it. And then we'll start creating our store and everything. Okay. So meanwhile, what we can do is we can actually define a state for our product. So this is generally a lot of developers follow this pattern. So whenever they have some code related to NgRx, they create a folder, and if I'm not wrong, Alex, this is the standard pattern which we follow, right? State folder, and then we put everything related to NgRx in here, right?
And then there are a few patterns. I guess this is one of them. Okay. You can go ahead with this one too. I typically, not everything related to NgRx output and state. I put the components to actions close to where they're dispatched from. Okay. Again, there are like a few patterns here. I typically don't even use the state folder, but this is one of the options. So,
okay, cool. So I'll create an interface here. So I'll just call it as our product, not our product. I'll just call it as product.ts, and I'll define few properties. So just so I have ID, name, product, image, and price, and category. So these are different properties which I have inside my product, and then I will define start defining my actions. Let's do that later. No. So right now you can see our application is actually working. You have a product link, and then you have link 2, link 3. I'll just rename them so we can actually have a readable name. You can go to navbar component.html, and then let's change it. This will be our products, and we'll change it once we have more components, right? So here we have our product, and the first thing which we need is actually I want to retrieve some data from the API. So I'm not going to create an actual API, so I'll just mock some data. So I'll create I'll just create a file where I'll put all the data. So I'll just call it as product list. And I've created some products, so I'll just use them where actually. So it's you can see it's a product list with same information which we mentioned inside our product.ts. We are using it as interface. So we have ID 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have some more information, category, name, price, and then product image. I don't have this product images available right now. Let me just copy it from the another folder. So okay, so I'll just copy this and put it in assets folder. So otherwise we will get all the blank images, which I don't want to. Okay, so this is let's say this is our backend where we have some product list information and we want to retrieve this product information into our application. So generally this is the approach we follow. I'm sure everyone knows about it. So we create a service first. So here I'll say, okay, this is NgG service, and then we call it as product service, and this is it. So we have this product service, and here I'll just mention a get products method, and here I'll do a few more things. I have to actually use HTTP client module, so I'll just do that. So I'm taking HTTP client module from Anglo Common HTTP, so I can make use HTTP client service, which is available here. So I'll just go ahead and inject private HTTP, and this will be HTTP client. This is generally what we use to make an API call from our application. And now here, as we already have the data, we don't need to actually do that. So I'll just retrieve the data directly from the product list which we have, right? So this is not required even basically, but I was just giving an general overview, generally how we do it, and then we make get call here. So I'll say this dot get this dot not this dot HTTP dot maybe whatever method you have, right? For example, if I have a get method, I can just give from where we need to get the APIs. Here we already have the data available in product list, and we are going to use the same. So I'll import the data. I'll import it using, so say, okay, give me product list, and I'm just going to return the same product using, I'm going to return it as an observable. So I'll say off, which is coming from RxJS. Okay, so this is the get products method, which we will call in our component to load this data, right? So now we have service available, and let me show you how we do it without using NgRx. So I'll say this is private, and this will be product service, which is type of product service. Just import it first. Sometime I'm not sure why, but it does not work. Dot slash state slash product service, and we are going to get product service from here. And when we need to get the information, we can have actually property defined here. I'll say this is products, which is observable of product interface which we have created. So again, I need to import it first. Import from, so this is the interface which we used, state slash product, my product. And this will be an array. So I'll just make it an array. And here I'll just take the data. So this is products is equals to this dot product service dot get product. So this returns an observable, and this should work. There is no problem here. And in my component, I'll just subscribe to this data. So I'll say, okay, this is products hyphen a sync pipe. We will be using a sync pipe, and then I'll just convert it to JSON just to see what data we have available, right? So let's go ahead and see. Okay, so you have all this information which is available, ID, I mean, the information which we have here, right? So I can just use tag to display it as properly formatted JSON. Okay, so this is the information which we have on our front end. Now, what we can do with this data, right? So let's say we have this product screen where we can actually display it in a proper format, like you may be aware of the Amazon, right? So they this display product, all the information, and then you click on this product, and then you go to a new screen where you have product details. So all this is possible with this data. But generally, what we do is we have to make another call. So generally, something like this. So we will, let's say we have a product details method, something like that. So here, maybe you'll have something called get product by ID, where you will pass ID here, type of number, and then you will say, okay, return maybe your HTTP get call or post call, whatever you have, you will do this. Like, so you have two methods, right? Two API calls to make to actually perform those operations. But using NgRx, what you can do is you can put all this information into store, and then whenever we need it, we will use it or query it from the store using selectors. So this is the simple example. Now we'll start converting this to our NgRx Store pattern. So let's go ahead and change this. So first thing which we need is we'll create product.action.ps. So we'll create our actions. We'll define what the different actions which our application can have. So the first action which I'm going to define is, we call it as load product, which will load our product from our backend. Or maybe right now we have just dummy data, but we are treating it as a service. And now here to create your actions, so you should actually name your action based on what operation you are trying to perform. It shouldn't, yeah. So so here I'm trying to use load the product. Yes. Similarly, if I'm trying to add a product, I may name it as an add product. If I'm trying to remove a product, maybe delete product or remove product, something like that. To create actions, you have a creator function which is available, and this is available after NgRx 8. So you can have a function called create action. Okay, so you don't have to do anything else. You have to say create action. Okay, I have some like an extension which is installed. Okay, so I'll say this is load product. And this create action will be actually imported from NgRx Store. So I'll say, okay, this is import from @NgRx/store. And we will take create action from here. And your actions can have actually two parameters. One is the name of the event which we are trying to perform. So here it will be, of course, I'll say source is product. Generally, we mention the slice for which we are trying to, or the feature for which we are trying to write the code. So I'll say, okay, this is product, and event, I'll call it as load products. Similarly, we'll write few more. Let's see what are those. So now, in case we have a load product, which is an API call, and we spoke about that your API call can be success or failure. So it can have side effects. So we'll create few actions based on that. So I'll say, okay, this is load product success. This is one event, which is create action, and then same. Okay, and I'll call it as load products success. And the second parameter is your properties or payload, which can be provided. So here you can use actually props, and then you can define, okay, what will be the parameter. Right now there won't be any parameter because it's just loading all the information, but we need to save this information into our store. So we'll say, okay, this will be here. I'll say this is products, all the products which we are going to receive from our API, and then we are going to save this somehow into our store, right? So I'll say, okay, this will be type of products Let's say this is, let's import again from our interface. We have to define what type of data it would be, and I'll say, okay, this is iProduct array, right? And this is it. So we created another action to actually load product success. This action will be dispatched when all the products are loaded successfully. And now for failure, we will create one more action. Generally, this is the pattern which I follow. In case I have an API call to get some data from backend, I generally create two more action, one for success, one for failure, in case something goes wrong, right? So I'll say load product failure if there is any error. So in case of error, of course, I'll just copy the same and I'll make it failure. And here now I will not have product information but an error information. So maybe you can have it as error of type string, maybe some human readable error which we want to send to our front end. So you can go ahead and do that. And what more we are going to do is actually we are going to have one more functionality where we'll be having add to cart function, right? So we'll display the product into in our screen, and then we will have a add to cart button which will be available. So that's also one action which we are going to perform. So I'll just create one more action and we'll say this is add to cart and product, and this will be add product to cart, and this will be like it will take one product at a time. So I'll say, okay, this will be product but type of iProduct. It won't be an array. So these are a few actions which we have performed, and let's define one more. We are also going to implement filter functionality where we can have product filter based on the price. So I'll create one more. So I'll say export const, and then we'll say, okay, this is filter product, and your filter action can have two parameters, min price and max price, and you can add more, right? So I'll say this is filter product, and here I'll just say this is min price. I mean, this is the range between which we can have the products, and I'll just say this is type of number, min and max. You can also add filter for category. That can be another action. Okay, so now we have defined bunch of actions. So we have load product success, failure. Then we also said we are going to have a add to cart functionality. So we'll have add to cart, and then we have filter product, which we'll use to actually filter the products based on the price. So we'll have two text box with min price and max price, and you can actually input the values which you want to. Okay, so we now have actions available. The next thing which we need is, of course, as we said, we are going to retrieve this data from the data which we already have available inside our service. We are not going to make a call to our service directly, which we did it for example here, right? So here we directly use product service. We are rather than that, we are going to have an effect which will retrieve the data from our backend and then put it into our reducer. So let's go ahead and write the effect. So here I'll just create another file, product.effects.ts, and this is very similar to service. So I think I could have created a service and named it as product effect maybe, but it's absolutely fine. Okay, so I'll just say export. I'll just write it, or there is an extension. I think we have NgRx create effect, and I have to. Okay. So this is for method. So I'll just create a class export, and there are schematics which are available in NgRx as well. You can also use them. Let me just show you here. I can just go to ngrx.io and docs. So NgRx effects, and you can go to overview installation. This is how you can add NgRx effects, right? Okay, so we also, it reminds me that we have to actually add NgRx effects as well. We have not done that so far. So I'll just comment this out as of now and then add effects first. And this is the schematics which I'm talking about. So you can have multiple schematics which is available to create an effect. We can actually run this one, effect name, and ng generate effect and effect name once. Let's see if once it is installed. Okay, so if you notice the changes, it will just add this effects module here, NgRx effects module, and it is empty right now. So it says effects module for root, and this one is empty. So because we don't have any effect defined right now, we will do one for product. So I'll just go to integrated terminal again and effect, and I'll say this is product. But not found in collection schematic / Angular. Okay, so here we have to say @NgRx :schematics. Sorry, NgRx / right? NgRx / schematics. Okay, let me just see the schematic name, NgRx. The name is NgRx. Okay, NgRx / schematics. NgRx / schematics : effect, and then effect name. Is there anything wrong, Alex, here?
You try to generate.
Yeah. Okay, we need to install an NgRx schematic, is it?
I actually don't use schematics much.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I generally write it by my own, but just to give an example. Okay, let's write it, and maybe next time I will create it. Okay, so okay, so right now I'm just creating the effect manually. So here we have export class, and then this will be product effect, and this will be the method inside it, right? So we'll just cut it, and I'm using a snippet which is created by John Papa. So he created it for NgRx 9. All the creator functions are here, so you can just install that extension. Let me just show you. Angular Essential. So this is the Angular Essential extension which is provided by created by John Papa. It includes everything. I think there are a lot of things which is part of it. So you have Angular snippets for Angular 9. It also includes NgRx as well. And I don't know why I have two versions available. Okay, this is one extension, and this is the snippets. Yeah, so this is the one which I am using right now. So you can use Angular snippets for version 9. Both are created by John Papa. So good. So here and as this is a service, I am going to use the injectable decorator here. So let's enter it injectable. Okay. And the effect name, so I'll just call it as load product. So this will be getting all the product, and here also we are going to use another create function. So if you notice here, we are using the first creator function which is called create action, and for effect we are going to use another called create effect. And of course this will be something which will import from NgRx / effects. So let's import from @NgRx / effects, and I'll say, okay, give me the create effect function, and then this is something which we need to inject. So we'll just inject this particular action. I'll discuss about it soon, what this actions is. Let's import it first, and this will be our product service. So I'll just use the product service which we have already created. So I'll just import from /product service. And then we are going to use of type from NgRx effects, and then we need the action which should be captured here. So we'll just remove it, and we will import the load product action here. So I'll say, okay, this is dot slash, I need the action, and from action we need the load product. So I'll just say, okay, this is load product, and we are going to handle, I'll talk about it in more detail. Let me just write this code. And here we are saying, okay, this is the of type load product, because we are going to handle the action which will be dispatched from a component. So load product is the action which will be dispatched. And here I can use maybe, let's say, exhaust map. So I need to import from NgRx Store operators. And here I'll just use maybe exhaust map here. And so this is where you will, if you receive the data, you will dispatch an success action. If you receive an error, you will dispatch an failure action. So let me just import this map and then catch error function as well. So both are coming from NgRx Store, and I need to import off as well. And I'll just remove this, and rather than this, I'll say this dot product service. Okay, and here I'll remove this feature action, and rather than this, we'll say, okay, this is load product success, and we'll say, okay, this is load product success, and this will be our data. So our data is right now we are expecting the products, which will be the response received from this particular method. So we have to actually call a method as well, which is get products, right? So this is the method which we are calling. And then catch error here, we also have an action to handle in case there is some failure, right? So we'll say load product failure, and then this is the error which we can get from the API. So this is how you can write an effect. So we have load product effect, which is available here, which what it does is it will handle the action, which is load product action, which will be dispatched by your component. And then it takes, makes an API call. It makes an call to your service, and then it loads the product's information. So, and once we receive this product information, we have to save it somewhere. And this is where we need to introduce our store. So the next thing which we are going to write is our reducer. So let's go ahead and say this is product dot reducer dot ps. So a reducer will be responsible for updating your entire state. So I'll just go ahead and write a few things here. So first thing which you need is, of course, we have to define how our state looks like. So I'll say, okay, this is export interface, and I'll call it as product state. And what are the different information we have? So we have, of course, products. Okay, so all the products which we have. Then we said we are also going to have a cart. So product cart. So we'll say, okay, this product cart, and what type of data it can have? Of course, I have product array, right? Because I can have multiple product inside my cart. And then we said, okay, we'll also have a filter. So I'll just say this is price filter. And this price filter can have two properties right now, which will be min price type of number. Why I'm defining it here? Because I'm going to save this information. So whenever a user comes back to your screen, let's say there is a screen for all the products, and you also have filters. So once your filters are applied, once a user comes back to your screen, those filters will be retained. So that's why I'm defining it inside my state. If you don't need to do that, remove it. So make sure that you are only saving the information in the store which you need to retrieve later. You don't need to put everything, and then we can have error, which will be string. Okay, so this is my interface, or you can say this is how my product slice looks like, right? So product table looks like, and then we can have an initial state, which will be the default state for our application. So I'll say, okay, this is export const. I'm not going to use it outside, so I'll just remove this export, and I will call it as initial state. And initial state, of course, will be type of this. And here we'll define the initial state. So of course, what will be your products? It will be empty. Then we have cart, which will be also empty. You have price filter, where we have two properties, max price and min price. Both will be 0. Max price. And then you have error, which will be again empty. So I'll just put a string here. So now we have defined our initial state. So when your application starts, this will be the state which will be available for all the components. And after this, we can start defining our reducer. So we can just start writing our reducer here, which will be responsible for updating our state information. So here we can just say export. We are going to use this reducer outside. So I'll say, okay, this is export const, not console, and I'll call it as product reducer. So this is where one thing which I want to tell you, that lot of developers name it as reducer. Like this. So, and in all the files, whatever reducer they write, they just write it as reducer. I would suggest not to do it, because once you migrate your applications to mono repos, it becomes really difficult, because the name is same, and in case you are converting this to a library, you need to export this to your different UI libraries or different applications. And if the name is same, it will just cause a conflict and confusion. So always name it as based on your feature. So I'll just say this is product reducer. And now here also we are going to use another creator function. So I'll say this is create reducer, and it will take the initial state, which we have already defined. So this is the default state which is available. And then now we have to handle the different actions. So let me just go back to the slides, and let me just tell you. So this component is dispatching actions, and then action needs to be captured by reducer. So we have already defined our actions here. All these are our actions. We are not dispatching anything right now, because of course we'll do that. We are just writing our entire NgRx Store code, so we can actually connect it later on. And here we will be writing all the code to handle those actions which are defined here. Here, the first action which we have, load product, is something which will be handled by your effect. So we are not going to write this inside the reducer, but most of the actions, the other actions, are actually responsible for updating our store. So we'll just write it here. So to handle the actions, you have a function called on. So not O capital, small on. So here you will pass the first parameter. Let me just, okay. I have to get on from NgRx Store, not the process. Sorry. Here I'll pass the action which needs to be handled. And for that, I need all the actions which are available, right? So I'll say, okay, this is from action. First, let's write for load product, success, and load product failure. Okay. So here I'll pass load product success and comma. Here we can have some parameter. The first parameter which we'll have is state, and the second parameter will be the payload, which will be available inside your load product success. So payload is products, or you can say the property which is available is product. And what are those? So let me just tell you here. So this state which we are writing here, this state is the previous state of this application, or previous state of this application, and this will be the new data which we want to update. So here I'll say, okay, this is products. Any problem in the syntax? Let's just write it, and then maybe. Okay. I was closing it. Okay, cool. And then. Okay. So this is the previous state of our this product slice, and then this is the new product which we want to update, and this is how you will be doing it. So I'll just put it here. I'll expand the current state. So I'm using the spread operator. You can just relate this to this code which we have written. So NgRx, we cannot mutate the objects inside NgRx Store. So this is what we are doing, is we are creating a new object every time our store gets updated. And what we are saving into the store is this particular state, which is related to product. So we are not going to update it directly, which is not anyways allowed inside NgRx. You should always mutate because it's immutable, right? So you should always create a new object. And now what we are going to do is we are going to say this products is the same products which we have here. So I can just remove it because this is the same variable, right? So I'm sure everyone knows how the shadow objects works. You can actually just use it here. And then I can say, okay, in this case, errors will be blank, right? So because this is where we are just loading all the products. Then we can handle more. We'll say, okay, this is on load product failure, right? So I'll say this is load product failure. Similarly, we can pass state. And we are passing is error here. So we have state and error. Now we'll just again do the same. So I'll just update state using spread operator. So I'll say st. Load product failure, state and error. And in this case, I'll just update the error, whatever error we are getting, and then products will be empty because, of course, we don't have any information or any records which is given from the backend to us. Why we are making it empty? Because maybe first time it was successful, but next time there was some problem loading the products, and now we have some data which is actually not valid data which is available in the store. So make sure that you are handling it properly, you are doing error handling properly, whatever state you need to update. And this is right now, this is it. So we have written some code to get the data from the backend, and then we are saving that data into our store, and we will connect it to our front end. So first thing which we will do is we will connect this store or connect this reducer to our store. So here we will, this is the global state which we have. So we are not doing anything here. I'll use a separate state for this product.module and NgRx Store. So we can import NgRx Store module here. So I'll say, okay, this is import from NgRx Store. And we can get store module. For features, you can use something known as store module for feature, similar to what we do for routing, right? So we have for root and so we have this one for root, and then for childs we have for child. So similarly here you can say for root, which is available in case you have something globally which is available, some global state. And for features you can use for feature, and then you can define your feature name. So I'll say, okay, this is product feature, and then you have to pass the reducer. So you can see it is reducers. So I'll pass this reducer which we just wrote. So I'll just import from /state/reducer, and the reducer which we wrote is product reducer. So I'll just say, okay, this is product reducer. So this is done. So we have connected our our feature state to our application now. So we can always go ahead and take or read some information or some values from the store. And we also need to connect our effects. So to do that, if you see in our global state, we have effects module for root. Similarly, if I go to my feature, you will have something called for feature. Let's import effects module first, and then do this for feature. And here you can actually put the name of the class which we have inside product effect. So this is the name of the class. What's the problem? Move to a new file. Why? Okay, anyways. So there's a problem. So I'll say product effect. Let's see if it is possible. It is coming. No. Let's import. So I'll put my product /state/product effects. And we will also register our product effect here. In case you have multiple effects, you can actually just put a comma and then add multiple here, because it's possible, right? For a single feature, you can have multiple, inside a large feature, you can have multiple small features. For example, your product may also contain the orders, right? So you can actually have another effect which is responsible for handling your orders data. So that's possible. So you can put them just into this particular array. And there is one unsaved file. Let me just check which one, product effect, why this is unsaved. Okay, so we have connected everything. The only thing which is pending right now is we have to dispatch the action. Right now, we are taking the data directly from service. So if I go to product component.ts, we are actually not getting the data from our store, right? So we are taking the entire data from our service. So let's try to dispatch some data and see if our product or if our store is getting updated. So we can see that without actually right now, without doing anything. So we have to use, let me just add one more thing. So we'll add NgRx DevTools to see if our actions are getting dispatched or not. So I'll just stop. I thought I'm running. Okay, so I'll just add NgRx DevTools to see how our actions are dispatched, how our stores are getting updated. Add NgRx DevTools, unable to fetch metadata. What happened to this? Add NgRx DevTools. I'm connected to internet, right? Okay, let's see if something has changed. So component store DevTools. Okay. Add. Okay, store DevTools. Okay, I somehow mentioned DevTools. So let's add NgRx DevTools here, which will install and configure everything for us. And you also need an extension. So let me just tell you. So you can go to let me just open another window maybe. Okay, so you have to install Redux DevTools. So you can just search for Redux DevTools and you can install this extension, which I have already installed. So you can and you can see all the actions which will be dispatched within our application using this DevTools. And let me just run my application, of course. Yeah. So now this is done. Let's run the application. I think I have installed everything which was needed, so we don't need to install anything new now. We may just need to create some components. And here we'll just remove this code now. So we'll remove the product service from here and this code as well. And from HTML, we will remove this right now because we don't have any data available. So it will be empty. Okay, so everything works, but let's go ahead and see. Let's go to inspect, and you can once you install the Redux DevTools, you will be able to see Redux available here inside your DevTools, and you can click on Redux and this screen will be available. So you can see there are a few effects, there are a few actions which are actually dispatched internally from the NgRx as well. So you can see there is something called NgRx Store, NgRx Effects, NgRx Store update reducers. These are all internal events which are dispatched before everything is initialized. So this is to initialize everything. Now let's go ahead and dispatch our first event. So what we are going to do is we are going to have get the product's information. So here I'm going to use private store, and this will be type of store which is coming from NgRx Store. So I'll just remove this, I don't need it. So NgRx Store, and then you have to define, okay, what type of store you have. So this will be like your interface which we have defined. So action, not in action. Yeah, this one. So you have to define, okay, what is the state of your application, which we can pass here. Let's go to our component.ts. Not this one, this, and then we can pass this interface here. And here now we need to select some data. So, but before we have to dispatch some data. So I'll say this dot products, and you will get a method called dispatch. Second, I'm missing here is product component. So store of product state, and oh, sorry, I'm not using first. So let's rename it to product store. Product store, and this dot product store dot dispatch. We'll just dispatch this action, and the action will be to load the products. So I'll say, okay, this is load products. Load product. So this is the first action which we are dispatching. Let's import this because I think it won't be imported by default. It is, but, and okay, this is what was missing. Okay, so this is a function, right? So we have to call it like this. So now we are dispatching our first action, and let's go ahead and see in our store. Okay, so let me just expand this. So here you can see the load products action was dispatched. So we dispatched it from our component on ng-on-init, and then there is something called load product success, which is called. Now, who is calling load product success? So if you remember, we have written some code in our effect. So let's go to effect to handle the load product action. So this is load product action, and then it dispatches load product success in case the API call was successful. And this is how this is what you can see here. So this is load products, and then there is a load product success. And what load product success does is you can see the difference. What is the difference made into your state? So you have this products which is now available. So if I go to state, you will be able to see all the information which is available. If I go to action, you will be able to see the action with the payload which we are passing. So if you remember, if you see that see this code in product success, we are passing the data with this products information, which is of course array of products, right? So this is all the products, and this is your action name, load product success. This is the state right now, the current state, and this is the difference between current state and the previous state. So everything can be debugged using this Redux dev tools. And this is the state when our load product success was called. So you can see products is empty, price filter is actually nothing. Then you have error, cart information is empty. After this, you have product information, and of course, rest of things are not available right now, which we need to update. So this is the first action which was dispatched from our NgRx, from our component to NgRx store. And what it did is actually updated some information into our NgRx store, which we can use, I mean, wherever we want. So let's go ahead and create few components actually to do that. So first component which we are going to do is I'll create ngGC, and I'll call it as product-list. Okay, so in product, this is product component. Where is that? Okay, I wanted to create it inside product. So let me just delete it, and I'll create it inside product folder. I'll say product/product list. And I think it made some entries here. So let me just remove it. So now we have a product list component which is available, which will render all the product information which we have. And we will make it as our child component. So it will receive the input parameter, right? So we'll say this will be the product list, and this will be the product array. You can just name it product. It's absolutely fine. I have named it as iProduct, but yeah, you can name it whatever you like. And this, I'll just add some HTML here. So in this as product list and some CSS. So what I'm doing is I'm just displaying all the product inside card, and then there is an action called add to cart. And right now we are getting some error because we need to import few modules for material. So I'll just add them. I think it's mat card module. Let's import from NgRx Angular / material / card, and we need mat card module here. Mat card and let's see what we are using. We are using mat button, so I'll also import mat button module. Mat button / so it will be mat button module, and this is it. I think these are only two modules which we are using here. And currency, I'll change this to INR. So we have created a product list component which will just display all the components which we have. Of course, you can actually create product details as well. I mean, you can just split it into one more component because we are using NG4. That's possible, but we will not do that right now. And then we will use it inside here. So I'll just say this is app product list. And we need the product information now. So right now we are of course not selecting anything. So we need to write our first selector to get all the products out of the state. So we just need all the products which is available into our store. So here we will create another file. We'll call it as product.selector.ps. So there are two approaches which I have seen to write selectors. A lot of developers actually write selector inside the reducer, which is also fine, but I prefer writing it in another file. So I create another file called product.selector.ts and write all the selectors here. So let's go ahead and write the first selector to actually get the product list from our store. So here, the first thing which we have to do is we have to create so we have to create a feature selector. So I'll just say this is get products state is equals to, we are going to use another creator function here. So I'll say this is create feature selector, which we need to import from NgRx Store. So let's import it. Somehow auto import is not working. From and create NgRx /store, and we need create feature selector. And here you have to pass for which feature we want to get the information, right? So we have this particular value which is defined here as well. So this is the state which we are talking about, and we will say, okay, this is the state for which we need the values, right? So this get product state right now will give the entire information to you. It will give you your card information. It will give you your filters information, even give whatever which is available inside our state. So right now what we need is we just need the product list. So I'll create another selector. So this is how you can actually compose selector. So this is your entire table, and now we need to apply, let's say, where query. So I'll say this is get products equals to, I'll say create selector, and we'll pass this product state, and then this second property will be state, and here we are going to say state dot, we need to pass type of data we have. I have product, product state. So I'll just pass the interface here for typing. So I'll say import from /. So we are going to take the So we are going to take this product state here. We are going to say, okay, the state is type of product state. I am not getting any information here. And this is get selector. This is product state. Get product state. Okay, I'm missing this one. So we can define the product state here. So it gives you typings. Now it should work. Okay. So now this particular query, get products, will be actually responsible for giving me all the products which is available inside my store. So we just wrote our first query. Now let's go ahead and use this get products into our component. So I'll go to my product component.ts, and here I need the entire products, right? So I can just say this dot products, and then there'll be one more thing which we'll see later on. So I'll say, okay, this is this dot product store dot select. So this is how you are going to select the select that particular value from your store. No, you need to use pipe, and then this is where you need to use select. Select. I'm not wrong. If I'm not wrong, I saw somewhere that this select is getting deprecated. Is it?
It's not deprecated, and I actually prefer without the pipe. I think it just it makes it shorter and.
Okay, so something like this.
Just select and pass the selector in here.
Oh, okay. Okay. So select, and then you can pass the selector here. Cool. This is nice. So I'll say import from the selector. So I'll just say, okay, this is dot slash state slash product selector, right? So we are going to get products. This is the selector which we need, and we can just pass the selector here. Earlier we used to apply pipe, and then we used to use a select operator inside this. Now it is not required, so I'll just remove. Okay, so you have this products information which is available, and now you can use this product again inside your template. So I'll pass it as product list is equals to this is products, and I'll just use the finish notation. So we can denote it as star, as you can use dollar operator to denote that this is an observable, and products type async. And this is it. So now we have product list which is available. Let's go ahead and see the front end, and now you can see you have some product information which is available here, and you will be able to see all the information available. You can see we have not actually written some code to retrieve anything. We are just relying on these selectors, which is responsible for giving me the data. So whenever the product changes, you don't have to do anything. You just need to actually, you don't need to do anything. You have already subscribed to the store. This is something where you have subscribed to the store. Whenever there is any changes inside this get products or the product store, it will be automatically dispatched. So new values will be dispatched. Your reducers will be responsible for updating the store, and the selectors will be responsible for sending you the new data, which will refresh your component, right? So you don't have to do anything else. So this is how you write NgRx. You write reducer, you write effects. But there is one more thing which I want to discuss before we move ahead, which is this one, actions. So remember one thing. So whenever there is a new action which is dispatched from your component, we are not defining which action to be handled anywhere. So this effect will be responsible for seeing all the actions which are dispatched. So all the actions will actually come here, and based on what effect we have written, we are defining here that this is the action which we want to capture here for load product. But all the actions dispatched will be also handled by effects. Correct. Sorry. So Alex, I'm right? So this is something where a lot of people get confused. I was also confused at first how it is handled. Then I realized that all the actions which is dispatched actually comes to your effects, and then you are defining here which action you want to handle.
Yeah, that's correct. So basically, action $sign is the stream of all of the actions that are dispatched anywhere within the application, and of type is basically a filter, right? So you're saying, okay, we take all of them, but we care about only, in your case, it's load product, and then basically it's a filter.
And you can also, right now we are handling load product here, but you can also handle load product inside reducer in case you want to update any information before it is sent to your effects. So the way it works is it comes to reducer first and then goes to effects. So in case you want to update some more information, in case you are passing some payload, you can do that using reducer as well. And then it comes back to your effects can actually raise another action to send it back to the reducer. So this is how it works. So in case you are wondering how entire flow works, this is how it is. And now we can actually add few more information. So let's go ahead and implement this add to cart functionality. And then I'll just add one more component. So I'll just say ngC. I'll say this is cart and product/cart. So this is something where we will update our card information. Okay. So inside our cart, we will have this will be your products. So this is cart, and this will be of course product list, right? So anyways, it will be the same. And now we are going to also make this component as dumb component. It will not subscribe anything by its own. We will be passing the data from our parent component. So you'll see the another beauty of using NgRx, so that you can also make all the components dumb. You just have to make your parent component as container component, and all the other component can be just presenter component. So I'll just make this as cart or ngif, and this will be product of cart. Okay, so this is just some HTML which will be used to display some information, whatever data we have inside cart, right? So we have this cart which is available here, and now we need to raise another action whenever something is added to cart, right? So we already have this add to cart button available here. We just need to make sure that it is working fine. So I'll write some code. So the first thing which we will do is we will add an event here. So I'll just say, okay, this is @output, and I'll say this is add to cart action, add to cart. This will be new event emitter. Let's say, okay, this is imported from the correct place, NgRx Store, in Angular core. And then we are saying, okay, this is this data will be type of iProduct because we can add one product at a time. And this will be button on click. I'll say this is cart, and I'll pass the product. So the current product is this product, and we'll just add this one, cart, which is product of type iProduct. So whenever we click on cart, we will receive one product which is available, and then we will dispatch this. I will just send this product to the parent, and then parent will be responsible. So this is how you can convert everything to the container and presenter model, where all your child components are dumb. They don't care about what is happening. They just need to send the data to parent or receive the data from parent. Your parent will be smart to handle everything inside your child component, whatever is happening. So I'll just say, okay, this is the product which we need to emit, and my parent component will actually subscribe to this event, is add to cart. Equals to, I'll say and product. Okay, so I just don't want to name both the function as same. So I said this is add product, and this is where I'll pass $event. And inside my component, we'll say, okay, this will receive a product, which will be type of product. And here I'll dispatch another action. So I have to dispatch an action to add the product to cart. So I'll say, okay, this is dot dispatch. And here I have to pass the product. So let's see, sorry, this one. So I have to import the load product, the action first. So I'll say this is add to cart action. And then in add to cart action, we have to pass a property. So if you see the action, we have product as a parameter here. So I'll say, okay, this is the product. You need to pass. And now what will happen is once we click on add to product, this product will be added inside your cart. So let's see it using the Redux store, which we already have available. And let's see if it is compiled properly and there is no error. Okay, there is no error. So let's click on add to cart, and you can see add product to cart action is dispatched here. And if I see this action, you will be able to see the payload, which is the current product. And if you see the state, you will be able to see the products which are available here and the difference. Okay, we are right now our store is not doing anything, right? Sorry, our reducer is not doing anything. It is just we are just raising this action, and it is not handled by anyone. So let's go ahead and write the reducer. So here I'll come back to reducer, and then we will write the code to handle our add to cart functionality. So I'll say, okay, this is add to cart. And again, so it will receive the previous state and then the data which we want to update, which is product, not prototype. So I'll say this is state and product. So you can also actually pass, if I'm not wrong, this is action. You can also pass, write some variable name, and then you can handle or access them like this. So I can say this is state, and let's say right now I want to update the cart, right? So I'll say cart is state dot cart. As I don't want to actually update it directly, I will just mutate the object using action. So action dot the product. So you can also do it something like this, but we are actually using we are directly using the object which is available. So we don't need to use the action property, or we don't need to handle the action dot or take a property out of this particular thing. So we just need to do this. In case you want to read the type as well, you can just remove this curly brackets and pass action as the object, and then you will be able to actually handle action or read action.type as well. Which type of action is this, in case you want to. And so this is again, so let's go to click on add to cart, and now we can see this is the difference. There is one product which is added to your cart. Go to state, you will be able to see products as well as cart information which is available. So now we have some cart information. What you can do is we can also update our cart which is available. So let's go ahead and see if we can do that. Yeah. So this is products, and let's display some cart information below our product list, right? So I'll just go ahead and see. I'll say this is app cart, and this is the cart information which you need to pass. So we will write another selector to select the only cart information. So let's go to our product component.html. I'll pass. We will say, okay, this is cart. So we are using $ just to denote that this is an observable. And then we'll say, okay, this is our product array again. And this is also something which is possible. So you can also use this dot. This is product store. So I'll just say okay. You don't need to basically write in everything inside ng on init. You can also do this. So you can just say okay, this is product store dot select, and then you can pass the selector here. So right now we have not written any selector to select only cart information. So let's go ahead and do that before we actually save this file. So here I'll say this is get product or get cart. And now we just need to select the cart information. So I can just say, okay, this just give me the cart, and that's it. So now we have another selector which is cart, get cart. And here I can go to TS and then pass this selector here. So let me just import it. And this is cart, which I will use inside the template. So this is see the property name. This is cart, right? So we'll go to cart equals to type async. Okay. Unbind to cart since it isn't known a property of app cart. Why so? So I have to use input decorator to make it a valid property. And this is it. Let's go ahead and see if we can see the cart. Right now the cart is empty. You can see that here, my cart. So let's push it here. So let's click on add to cart. You can see as soon as we click on add to cart, the product is updated here as well, right? So you don't have to actually go ahead and subscribe or go ahead and take the data or query the data again. So what you can do is you can just, using the selectors, you can just subscribe to it once, and then whenever the state is updated, you will automatically get all the information out of the store. So this is the advantage of writing selectors. Selectors are pretty powerful in case you have a lot of updates which is happening inside your application. Let's say there is a drop down, which based on that drop down value, you are updating a lot of values or changing a lot of values in your input model. In that case, selectors are pretty useful because you don't have to bind everything again and again. You can just go ahead and subscribe to it once, and then write your code based on that value. So this is the example, and now we'll take one last example, and then I will hand it back to Alex so he can actually tell you about NgRx component store, which is a new library which is available. So this is add to cart, works fine right now. Okay, so whenever you are adding a new product into cart, you are able to see it directly. So let's go ahead and see the last example where we need to apply some filters. So I'll just add some HTML to filter. So I'll create a form inside this one. So this is a filter form which I will create. So and so I'm using the reactive forms to do it, and then the form builder service which we need to inject. So I'll just inject the form builder into our constructor. So let's see, this is a form builder, and let's import everything which is missing here. Form group, form builder, then form control, and validators. Okay, so now we have a form which has two input controls, min price, max price, and we need few material module to be imported and few Angular module as well. So we need reactive form module, and then we need mat form filled module. Okay, so it is not coming right now. So let's import material form filled, and we also need input, mat input. So this is mat form filled module, and this will be material slash input, and this will be mat input module. So now we our form should work, so there is no errors here, and this is filter product action, which method which we need to implement. So I'll just say, okay, this is filter product, and right now it does nothing. Let's see, just to verify if we don't have any error. And okay, where is the control gone? So, okay, it was not saved. Okay, so we have this min price and max price, and I will just make this as 100% so your controls are visible. So you just go to CSS. So this is min price and max price, and then we click on filter, and then products will be filtered out, right? So right now it's like that. So let's go ahead and write the code first. So here in component.ts, we on filter product, what we need to do is we need to dispatch an action. So I'll say this dot product store dot dispatch, and now we need to dispatch the filter action. So I'll say, okay, this is filter. Let me just import it first. So I'll say this is product, and it requires two properties. So if you see, we have min max values, so min price and max price. So I'll just pass both. Okay, now here I can just say this dot our form, which is filter form dot what is control name? Okay, min price, right? So I'll say this is dot get min price dot value. And similarly, I can just do it for max. Okay. So we are dispatching an action with min price and max price, and let's verify it first if it works. So let's enter 10,000, 25,000, and let's see it in our this DevTools, and filter product is called. Let's see the action. Okay, min price, max price, and filter product action is dispatched. There is no difference because we are not handling anything and we are not modifying our state. So let's go ahead and do that next. So first thing, let's go ahead and handle this particular action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply put this information into our store. So I'll say, okay, this is filter product. Here I'll say, okay, this is previous state, and then and the information. So I'll say this is min price, comma max price, and here I'm just going to update the store. So I'll say, okay, this is store, sorry, state, not store, and here we'll just put the price filter, and so this is min I think one second. This is your min price, which is okay. I can just simply put it as min price, max price, because I have the same variable names. Should work. And okay, so now the next step, we are putting this into our state. So let's see. Filter, and now you can see the difference. So price filter has some values. Go to state and you will be able to see, okay, your product has some values, price filter has some values, but what about filtering these values, right? So we still can see all the information which is available. Now this is where there are multiple approaches you can do. Either you can pass this value to your API call. Your API should return everything, but why to do that in case you already have all the data available? So you can simply rely on selectors. This is where selectors are pretty powerful, as I said. So you can just rely on the selectors to filter or to show your filtered record as well. So I'll just change the code a little bit. So rather than selecting this products, I'll just say, okay, so I'm just applying the filter on the product slice, and I'm saying if product price is greater than, so I'm just writing a code to actually, this is min price and this is max price, to select the products between these two. Okay, so if filters are available, it will return the products which are inside that min price and max price. Otherwise, it will return all the products which is available, because by default it is 0. So let's go ahead and try that out. And right now, okay, I wrote the wrong code. I have to check if they are 0 and then apply. So just use this another method and min. So I'm just checking it first if min price and max price is 0, and then filter. I don't have to write two different queries, two different selectors, to one to show the filter product and another to show all the products which are available. So let's see if right now what is the data which we have. Okay, so we are able to see all the records which is available, and then let's apply the filter. So I'm saying, okay, this is 10K, and there are products between 25, 55. Okay, so let's mention 30K. And then filter. So we are able to see the product which is available inside between this range, right? So 10K and 30K. So there is only one product which is available, and this information is actually saved into your state as well. So we can actually retrieve these filters from the state also. So what you can do is you can just go to your component where we have defined the form, and here. So I'll just go back to my product component.ts. Right. So here we are dispatching an action. Here we are creating the form. We can also subscribe to the filter value, right? So we can actually have another selector written. So let's go ahead and write that selector just to return the filter, the min and max value. So I can say, okay, this is get filters. I mean, of course, you can have a lot more than this, right? So you can have more filters, maybe price and category. It's up to you to what extent you want to actually take it. So I'll say create selector, and here we'll pass get product state, and then I'll pass state, and then state dot price filter. So I'll just say, okay, this give me the price filter. And now inside my product component.ts, I can say this dot product store dot select, and then get filters dot. Now I can actually subscribe and bind the values once they are available. So I'll just do that. And this will be our min price. Just 2 lines of code. Min price, and this is max price. So in this case, once you come back to your route again, let's say let's define another route, and then we'll see that. So I'll just create another component. So let's say this is NgRx home. So we have home component, and create another route. So this is path is home, and component is home component. Hope it works. Autocomplete. And now I can just define this into the routes. So I'll just go to navbar and put it here, and I'll call it as home, just to show you the scenario where we can actually move to another route, come back, and we have all the data still available. So I'll say, okay, this is again, I need something between 30,000 and let's say 60,000. Filter. So we have these 3 records available. Let's go to home and come back. So you can see you still have your state your filter information available as it is. All the products are filtered as it is. Do we need to dispatch any action in this case? The answer is no. We don't need to dispatch any action because we have already subscribed to our store. We have written a query or a selector which gives us the information based on the filters which are already saved into my store. So I mean, you can just wonder, I mean, to just write all this code, we hardly wrote any information inside my component. So if I go to my component, let's open the product component.ts, right? So hardly 50 lines of code where, of course, there are a few lines which is import. So I'm sure within 20 or 30 lines of code, we did all this functionality. I'm sure if you try to do it using other approaches, you have to write a lot of code. But of course, all the business logic or everything we have moved inside our NgRx store. So we have effects, reducers, where there are a few lines of code, but they are reusable, right? So you don't have to actually put much of your logic inside component, and they are reactive. So they react based on the value or the action which is dispatched from your component. If I notice the components, they are dump. They are actually they are child components. They don't contain any logic. Both the components, product list and product, so they are just presentation component. They just represent the UI for your component, and they don't do anything else. So this is how you can actually apply NgRx to your enterprise application, make it much powerful than what it is. And of course, so let's see if I have anything else to cover. Otherwise, yep. So these are few references in case you want to read more about NgRx. Of course, ngrx.io is the good starting point. You have a lot of blog posts written by a lot of community members on indep.dev/ngrx, which is the tag. And there is an NgRx material starter as well created by Thomas. So you can also refer it to it. And I think I'm done for the day, and I will just hand it over to Alex, who is going to discuss about NgRx component store, which is the new library to handle the local store. So local state, which he will explain in more detail. And in case you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Thanks, Santosh.
Thanks, Santosh. Just before this one, the global store stuff, I wanted to touch on a few things here that I would have probably done just a touch differently. Thank you so much, Santosh, for this great presentation, by the way. First thing that we commonly know as a team is we try to name our actions as events in the system. So for example, the load component part, we would have named something like project list page opened, for example. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that is right now in the command kind of pattern, a load product sounds a command, right? So it's basically you are coupling what needs to happen into the component itself, because you're basically naming the action that way. But say I needed to get, products, and I needed to get ratings, and I needed like custom ratings, for example. So say we can rate the products, and we have a user who already rated their project. So we want to get that user's custom ratings, because we don't want to show the generic ones, right? Because they rated this already. So that means that we won't be dispatching, load the product, load the ratings, load something else. We won't be dispatching those actions. We'll just dispatch a single action that says, hey, project list opened, and then multiple effects could be triggered by, for example, one would start loading, the ratings, and the other one is responsible for products, will start loading the products. So, those two things could be done in parallel, and that way, basically, load, page, product list page open sends like a signal to the NgRx system to start doing something, right? At the same time, reducer switch to loading or something like that, right? And this is where NgRx Store as a global shared system, becomes very valuable, because you can trigger multiple things at the same time within your state, right? And they're independent, right? So there's a state that's responsible for ratings, for example. There's a state responsible for products, and they're basically independently updated, and then selectors are basically combining all this data together. So this is one thing that I would have probably done differently, and we're generally pretty much agree on this approach as event-driven actions. So that's one thing. And the second thing in this one, when we're adding item to the cart, we Santosh is still there, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm there.
Yeah. When we adding the item to the cart, I would have probably just added the product ID to the cart. The reason why is when we add the entire product is we add it with the title, we add it with the image, with the price, whatever. Now, say later on we have a periodically refreshing this page. We would really want to have a single source for that data, which is the products. Products are responsible for the data of the project, right? And then cart. If the price updated, for example, now we have to find where else this product is used throughout the store, right? Which means that data is kind of derived and trying to find all of them. There's one in the cart, there's one in the product list, and we're trying to update the prices everywhere, which obviously doesn't scale. So if we have product and just a list of products, this is the piece that's responsible for the product information, right? And this is the one that would have the price and stuff like that. And then when we add to the cart, we just get the ID, all right? And then the component that displays the cart items, for example, then it would query, it would select the IDs from the cart and then go to the product and pick all the products by those IDs, right? And then we have still a single source of truth for all the product information, and we're not storing this derived data in a few places, right? So this is the other thing that I would have probably made a little bit different. So just to this, and the reason why I touched on the first item is because it's quite important to understand that part. That single emission triggering multiple things within the system, because component store takes a little bit different approach. Component store is a replacement. It's a better organized replacement for the reactive, service with the subject approach. Give me just 1 second for a second. Yeah, sorry about that. So component store is a replacement for the service with the subject, and in general, there's two camps, what I call them: people who like global state management, and people who say, "Oh, I don't really need it. I have my services and I have my subjects. I can do everything with them just fine." And that could be quite true, but it's a little bit harder to organize the data and structure it. And there are many patterns with the service with the subject that miss out on certain race conditions or other things. And we try to basically organize that and orchestrate it in a nicer way. So component store is basically a replacement of that service with the subject. And the way it goes is, we want to have services, right? Services are great. Services that how we pull the data from backends and whatever, or even within the application, that's how we coordinate some of the data. But we don't want to have, we want them to be reactive. We want them to be push-based. And what that means is that service keeps the cache of some kind of data, but that data is shared, consumed reactively through observable. For example, say we have this, again, just a service that's responsible for just the products, right? And say we have, a bell icon that wants to know how many products are in the cart, for example, right? All that bell icon cares about is that it wants to know the count of that. So it can use the service. It doesn't care what updates it. So as long as it changes, it wants to display with a sync pipe, right? Takes this observable from the store, from the service, and basically react to those changes. User could be adding items to the cart, deleting, clearing, completing the purchase. There's many things that can affect this, what items we have in the cart, or actually what item IDs we have in the cart. All that component cares is that it wants to react as whenever that number changes, right? So that's why we want to have a reactive. And again, component and then NgRx Store is basically one reactive service, which we're consuming through selectors. Okay, so that's one. Just give me a second, just one second, sorry. Yeah, sorry about that. I just have I had 3 kids at home who were really young, and they were fighting for whatever movie they want to see, and I need sometimes to get and settle it. All right. So getting back to the component store. So the global store would share all the information that is used throughout the application. And if it's the application the one that Santos just was building right now, products are very much ingrained throughout the entire application, right? So it would make sense to have them, in the global store. Let's say we have some state that we care only about on a particular page, right? Or even sub-component tree. And we want that state to be, destroyed whenever we get to other page, because we don't care and it's irrelevant. We don't need to cache it or something like that, or it might get stale anyway. This is a good case of a component store. This is a good case of a service with some reactive state, and the component store goes, on top of it and tries to orchestrate it into three different ways. Just like NgRx Store, we need to basically read the data, update the data, and cause some of the side effects, right? And the way we do, writing the data, for example, updating the state, as Santosh just demonstrated, was through the reducers in a global store. In the component store, there's a thing called updater. So the updater is something that updates the local state. It's basically a factory function, basically, that shows how the state would change. Actually, I'll try to present it. I'll go through the, okay. Let me share my screen, and I'll do the Chrome tab. All right, you should see it here. Let me zoom it out a little bit. Okay. So, right. So this is the so again. This is the documentation for component store. It's right there in the NgRx.io site. So this is the updater, for example. So this is like a mini reducer. So for example, this one is. Oh, let me get to this right. So this one, for example, we're dealing with the movies, right? And this store, the movie store, is the one that is as a service. You can see it's injectable. That is responsible for these movies, for example. So it will extend the component store and pass the movie state. And the movie state would be, in this case, just the movies array, for example. In a constructor, we can initialize the state. So if you think of the typical approach, you would create probably a behavior subject, and you would still need to provide some initial state. This is doing pretty much the same. It doesn't have the behavior subject underneath. It has a replay subject underneath, just because the state could be initialized lazily. So behavior subject, you're forced to initialize it immediately. But lazy one allows you to defer it to a later time. For example, I don't want any state until a certain point. Anyhow, you can see here, like add a movie is an updater. This is the way how we update the state. And you can see it's very similar to reducers that Santosh just showed, where it takes the state and it doesn't take an action, but it takes some kind of input that this add movie would get. In this case, it's a movie, and it would update the state again, also in a mutable fashion. And how would we use this, for example? How would we update the state? Well, the way we would update the state is, for example, we inject this movie store, right? This is first of all, we'll need to provide it to the component. And we need to provide it to the component that would be responsible for the life cycle of the state. If it's a sub-component, you obviously don't need it because the parent will provide. Here, you might notice I'm not using the provided in root. So it's not the service that would be globally available throughout the application. I need to provide it to a particular component or module, for example. In this case, I'm providing to the particular component. So movie page component owns this, because maybe I care about movies only in the movies page component and its children, right? Maybe subtitle, maybe something else. But maybe I have, instead of movies, I have I don't know, books page, right? And I don't care about movies at that point at all. So it doesn't have to live in my global shared state. I only care about them in the context of this page, for example. All right, so now, for example, we have a way to add the movie, right? Which will push the movies into this movies array. So this is add movie. And the way we would use it is we'll have a template, and the template will have a call like add a movie in the template when you click some button. And again, the movies store, see this add movies, and we pass the movie to it. Add movies is this updater, right? So updater creates a function, right? So this is a factory function. So it returns a function that I can call. And whenever I call this add movie, I'll be passing this movie to it, right? So this is the way we can update the state. And this in the behavior subject approach that you will typically do, you would still create some kind of method in your movie service, for example, and you would call that also add movie, basically almost like this. And in there you would read your behavior subject state, spread it, and do the next with this updated movies, right? So this is very similar because we don't want to expose the internals of the behavior subject there. So updater is a little like it's similar, okay, but a little bit more organized, and we'll see it in a sec. Okay, so how would we read now? So we wrote something. How would we read it back? Well, in the read, we can again do in our movie store. We can do very similar. It has select. And then it tells, we know the full state of it, which is our movies. And we pretty much say, okay, we just need the movies array out of it. And again, it could have more things in the state. This is the very simple example to show some of the APIs, basically. And again, this is now reactive, right? So whatever component selects them, like here, like movie store, whenever things are added in this component or in somebody else's component, it doesn't matter. This is where we display them, and they'll react to those changes. So far, this is very much like a behavior service with a service with the behavior subject, as you can see, right? This is very much the same, except for select is very performant. It uses like distinct until change inside. It's using the share replay, the proper one, because there's some interesting things in it. It's a data performant one, right? So if the movies don't change and something else in the state gets updated, we're still, it won't fire this new observable. So very similar. However, there are other benefits that we'll talk about in a second. So for example, other benefit is we can combine those streams. For example, we select the movies and we select the user preferred movie IDs, right? For example, we have this user preferred movie IDs as part of our state as well. And this is the ones that user really likes, and we want to, somehow display to filter them down, for example. And again, we can use the select and combine those two streams together. And whenever one of them changes, right, this will recalculate and filter down the movies to the ones that user really likes, for example. And again, internally, it has some of the additional performance benefits on top of it. All right, so this is how we read, this is how we write, but how would we update? Where do we call those APIs? Well, first of all, is my recommendation to wrap the HTTP client calls with another service, which is injectable and provided in root, right? And that, for example, could be a movies service. So that one's globally available, injectable, provided in root service that wraps those HTTP client calls, right? And that one is completely stateless. It just, it's completely pool-based. I call a method, you give me an observable back with a result of that HTTP call, and basically we're done with this. So that one is not storing any data, okay? That one is just a wrapper for anything that might be using it. All right, so we're back to our movie store, and now we want to retrieve the movies, right? And the way we do it is also with the fact. So very similar to what Santosh just showed you. That was the fact that was listening to action, that was, and filtering it by. Here, we don't have the actions. So what we have instead is an effect, right? And this effect is listening for, we're wanting to get a particular movie, for example. So we're passing a movie ID to it. So it says, okay, movie ID, and this is a string, because we can be calling this multiple times. This movie, get movie, we could be calling multiple times, and depending on the situation, we sometimes want to do a different flattening strategy, which we'll get in a second. Okay, so now we have those movies IDs, and we pipe, and then this is where we would say this handle the race condition with a proper choice of a flattening operator. And let's just get back to that in 1 second. So here's this ID that I wanted to get the movie with. We'll call this movie service to fetch that movie, and then in the result, we'll add this movie, right? This is an updater, and if there's an error, it will log this error, and then we'll also, if there's an error, we'll basically make sure that our effect doesn't collapse. We'll just catch error and do the empty one. Okay. So this is the way, in effect, we would invoke this movie service to fetch this movie. But what is this flattening operator? What does the switch map do? This is very similar to what Santos just showed in the effects. We have a choice of 4 of flattening operators. And the way they matter is, if I'm already requesting one movie, right? I'm calling this get movie in my component. Let's see, here's my component. So this is, let's just get to this component quickly. So we have this input in my movie component, and this is a component just to get a single movie, okay? So this one gets this movie. It's an input, right? It's a setter. So I need to get my movie, and it's just listening to these movies. I'm asking to retrieve this particular movie. And again, you see here, this is the effect, and I'm passing this value. Notice I'm not passing the observable, I'm passing just a simple imperative value as a string. And this, what they will do when we call this, it will internally push it to these movies IDs, and it will start fetching this. So then this component, somebody changed their mind and the inputs gets another movie ID. Do we care about the previous one at this point? Well, no. We have a new movie ID that we want to show, and this is a single one. So what we call in the store, we call this get movie, and the new value is being pushed. All right, the new movie arrives to this observable stream, right, of movies, and like, okay, I'm already working on the previous request. What should we do with this? And this is where the flattening operators are very important. Switch map says, oh, you know what? Whatever you were working on here, it doesn't matter anymore to our consumers. Just drop it, right? And use my new movie ID to start the new request and fetch that data, because this is now what the component wants. There are other flattening operators like exhaust map, for example. The exhaust map is saying, hey, I got the new movie ID, that's great, but I'm working on this one. I don't care about the new values, right? Because I'm already working on something, and this is the data that will show. That's the best example for the get product. So get the entire list of movies, right? Could be multiple places that want that data and asking, give me the all list, give me the all list, give me the all list. So they're like, if they all ask at the same time, and I'm already getting the list of movies, I don't care about the previous about the new request to get it. I'm already getting it, right? So don't interrupt me in a way. So this is what exhaust map does. There's also a merge map that starts all these requests in parallel. So that's good. For example, when I'm trying to maybe update different movies at the same time, right? So these requests can be sent in parallel. That's what the merge map does. Or there's a concat map, which is the safest operator. That one doesn't drop anything. It just queues things up. So while I'm fetching the new movies, for example, I'll wait, with this ID until this one's done, and then I'll get the new one, for example. So this ability to handle the race conditions is so important, and this is one of the best things in NgRx Global Store or this local one. This one helps you organize and be very thoughtful about how do you want to handle the new requests, right? So how do we typically do it with a behavior, with a service, with a behavior subject? Well, we have a method, and that method would call the service. Let me just try to present a different tab. I had it somewhere. I can actually do this stuff, so I wouldn't be. Let's see, GitHub. I'll just do this one quickly. All right, and I'll show another master, but I'll tag it. Another milestones. I just want to show what exactly I mean by that, because I think it's important. So we have, for example, this is a simple one. Rating is a simple one, so probably use the cart. There you go. Yes, I'll bump up the size as well. So this is the typical service with a behavior subject, right? We have this behavior subject of cart items. We're exposing only them as an observable. This one even has the HTTP client inside, so it's basically doesn't do the way that I just said it's good. So see this add product, and if we compare the add movie or something, or get one, when we call this add product, right, we cause this HTTP post, and then we subscribe, and we push it into these cart item subjects. This is our container of state in the service with the behavior subject approach. But every time we call this add product, we cannot control the flow of these invocations. What does it mean? Every time we call it, a new one would start. So this is basically same as the merge map if we were thoughtful about handling this side effect, right? So if I'm adding the product, I cannot say here, hey, wait until my previous one completes, my previous HTTP post completes, because I have no means to do it here. There's no way I can do it. And these are type of the issues that creep into the application sometimes very unexpectedly. You don't have a test for race conditions. You don't write tests. You can just, I don't, I don't write tests for unit. I don't write unit tests for race conditions. And these are subtle bugs that later on creep into our product and then take hours of debugging and back and forth and hot fixes and stuff like that, right? Like this is the stuff that so easy to miss. And the funny part is that most of the time it just works, right? Like this works most of the time. But then we have a user who just is a very clicky happy and clicks remove the product 3 times, for example, on the same click button, thinking he's moving one or something, and we have no control over this at this case. Yes, there are somebody says, oh, I have control of this. When the user clicks on my button once, I disable the button. That's awesome, but now you are building this into a relationship with the global service, which is a card service, and how it would be used by your components, right? So you're building that dependency and those assumptions, basically. So that's why in the component store, we have something like these effects, because I truly believe those are really, really important. All right, let's get back to them here. Here we are. So here we can control how we call those services. This is super important, right? So this is side effects. Now we have all of the 3 components that actually both global and local ones share, which is updating the state, reading from the state, and causing other side effects. So you might say, okay, so why do I need the global store anyhow? This works great. Why do I need the other one at all? And the reason there is a lot of actually reasons for this. I wrote some of the usages in the docs here. Like I have 4 very distinct use cases for the component store. Actually, only one of them is fully complete. You can read through this, and I can show some of the cool examples if we'll have time and whatever. The other 2 use cases are basically still a work in progress, but you can probably guess what they are by the name of this one. But let's just get back for a second and compare like how a component store and store compare to each other. Do I need one? Do I need the other one? Can I use both at all? Right? And the answer is, well, you have to decide which one you want to use, or both, depending on multiple factors, right? And there are multiple factors. I listed them here. Those are the questions that you might ask yourself and decide which one you need, or you don't even need any state management. You're like, I'm just have a few services that just do simple calls, and I get the data straight to the component. I don't need anything else. I don't have my data reused in multiple places. I don't have, that, and that's fine. There's different types of applications which might not even need any of them. Although component store would most likely still be useful for all of them, because I want to be thoughtful about my race conditions, right? Like I want to be thoughtful, but again, maybe that's not the use case that comes up in your application. Anyhow, I wanted to show also some of the benefits and trade-offs between the component store and the global store. And what's interesting, they share the same. They start to share the same trade-offs. And the first of the trade-offs is this indirection. And the indirection is, I have to call something, but I'm listening for something else. I'm calling add product, but I'm listening to the product's observable stream, right? This is indirection. It's not that I'm calling the add product and I'm getting the observable back and I'm listening to that observable right away. This is not that, right? Because that would be a pool-based system. Every time I want to get updated, I need to ask. Versus, hey, this is the cart item counter observable that I'm just listening to, or cart item IDs, and then I just get the length of it. That gets updated automatically. So you probably see here already, there's a cost to it because it's not obvious, because you have to do 2 things. One is send a signal, and the other one is listen. But the benefit there is that I could be listening and somebody else could be sending signals, and multiple places could be sending different signals that affect that. So this indirection is the first great benefit that both global store and the component store have, right? Here, we just see the movies, right? When my component just displays the movies, it's just responsible for that. It doesn't care if there's somebody editing the movie and or removing the movies or something else, right? It just wants to show, or apply some different filters. It just wants to show the movies that are being provided to it. So this is the first trade-off and the benefit, right? The second one, which component store doesn't go to, but the global one goes to, is this action indirection. So actions are the second indirection, and they are only for the global store, right? So in the component store, I'm calling the effect directly. I'm calling the updater directly from my components. I'm not calling the actions. But the drawback is that if I need to update few things, now I have to call multiple effects, or I have to call an effect that would orchestrate multiple other calls. But what if that data is a little bit spread through other different services? So it starts to not scale well, while action can trigger multiple effects and reduces at the same time. Now you have to ask yourself a question: do I care about this or not? If I just have the products and I just need to get a product, or just the movies in my previous example, and I don't have to trigger anything else, well, and it's scoped to my movies page, yeah, I'm fine with component store. But if movies is central to my application, multiple pages use it. When one of the pages opens, it gets the movies themselves, the user ratings, what are the current preferences for the movies, did this user like something else before, and something like any other additional information. Like if you have the multiple things you have to do and fetch and trigger multiple effects and multiple reducers at the same time, then dispatching an action such as, hey, movie page loaded, is fine, right? And so it's a different scale, and that data becomes more shared and global, and this is where store would be a better choice. The other one is the size of a state. If we have just movies and preferences, it's a smaller state, we're fine with this, right? But then if I have 15 different properties in there, that means I have many more effects that trigger this, and many more selectors that read it and update it. Now my movie store component can grow to 1,000 lines of code or 2,000 lines of code. I don't want that, right? So the global store scales better if your state for that particular state starts to grow bigger, right? Because what you can do, effects are in one file, reducers are in second file, selectors are somewhere else, actions are close to where they're dispatched in a separate file. So you don't have like 2,000-3,000 lines of code files that are trying to do everything. That means it's a better separation of the responsibilities in that case. So this is what I meant, the greater scalability. The other thing is the DevTools that Santos just showed are also very awesome for global store. Local component store, there could be many of them. There could be like a lot of this. There's no DevTools support for them. Some might argue, hey, I don't need it because it's more straightforward, because I'm not dispatching an action into nowhere and then just reading the state from somewhere. So I'm on a need because I call things directly. I can put the breakpoint. I can put my tap console log in there. So it's basically DevTools is helping more to deal with actions interaction. But some people really like to see the state as a whole, and it's actually very useful as well if your state is bigger. And one more actually that I didn't list it, but I should add it here, and I think it's very important as well, is global store has this compounding benefit. So if I'm just getting the products and listing the products, hey, I don't need it. But if something that I mentioned in the second part of what I would do differently was, remember my cart items, I would just add the IDs because I want my data to be, in a single place. I don't want to spread derived data through the store. And that way, that means I have the IDs there and I have my data there. I have basically my SQL queries, as Santosh said, combine things. I also would queries for custom product ratings that this user had. I also query for something else. I maybe query for filters, and then I will work with all of it and provide you in the selector some kind of data. So if you have multiple sources of different state that you're trying to combine, manipulate, that becomes a little bit harder with the component store because, again, you would just bloat it with all that stuff. So the global one has this compounding effect. The more things you need, the more there are moving pieces, the better it becomes at organizing things. Now, very early on, the question was, hey, I have my form and I have my asynchronous validator that does the call to the backend just to see if the form entered field is valid, is good or not. How would I put it in the NgRx store? You don't need it to, right? You don't need either action indirection. Moreover, you don't even need the first indirection because it's a direct pull thing. You would have a service, you call the service, you give it data, you have an observable, you get the observable back, it's valid or not, or if there's an error, if it's invalid, right? Like this is a pull back. You don't need any of those indirections. So that's what I'm saying. This should be also for each use case, there is a specific tool, right? So don't use one tool universally. And this is a problem that I've seen with other people trying to shove everything into the global store. Becomes too crowded and simple things become complicated. I don't want to call an action that would call some effect, that would do some callback, that would put some data in there that I can read the data from, all for just asking if my form field is a valid one, right? Like I don't want to do that because there's no benefit for it. So it's very important to think what are the benefits you get and what are the trade-offs you get. So do I want to straight up, pull-based request? Yeah, okay, I'm fine with that. I don't need any of them, right? I'm okay. If I want to be more reactive, I don't know what's causing state changes, but I have a thing there and I'm listening for this. Well, component store is great for that. I need to share it more widely. I have more inputs into this and stuff like that. Well, now you're in a global store territory. So what I want you to take from this is think about the use cases very thoughtfully. Like, what do you really need? What are you really trying to achieve? And then look at the benefits and trade-offs of each approach and use use the right tool for the right job, basically. So other things that I did, so this is, I also said, the state ownership, right? It's important to understand that the store has everything in a single object. Component store, there could be multiple independent states. But again, don't push the derived state around, right? Just make sure that each one is completely independent. If you're passing something, make sure you pass the ID because you can read it from other one anyway, right? Derived state spreading to application is the big problem. And then again, the file structure that I said that helps scalability, right? When you have individual files, they can scale, and then you need more effects. You can have a second class for this create effects, for example, right? So those would still be contained and they scale really well. While a single file approach, it starts to get some limits, or at least the ones that you can easily understand, I think, or think about, reason about. So there are good use cases for both of them. Just choose the right tool for the job. So on that, if we have any questions, that would be awesome. If not, I see the Discord link was shared for the NgRx group. This is the one that we're trying to use since last month. This is where we have a lot of interesting conversations and questions and things like that. So definitely join that one. If you even have any further questions, you can always go back there and ask some of the questions. I'm trying to grow a community around there. We had a lot of community on Gitter, but that one's really hard to maintain. So I think Discord serves well. It preserves the history as well. So this is the one that we're trying to use going forward. Yeah, so please join that one. There's also an Angular Discord. If you join the NgRx Discord, it should be in our partners channel. So you can always join the Angular one as well. And that one's growing really big as well, really fast. It's I think now it's for Papa. Yeah, so yeah, I'm busy right now.
Say hi to your son, Alex.
Oh yes. Can you go and ask to watch the movie? I'll be done very shortly, okay?
Say hi to your son.
Yes. Yeah, so I think that's it from me. If you want to discuss something or whatever, let's do that.
No, I think we are good. What about you,
Awesome.
Santosh? You'd like to add anything?
I mean, yes, I'm done as well. So in case anyone has question, we can take that.
If anyone have any questions, please go ahead and put the question, or otherwise, it was a very nice session, Santosh and Alex both. It was very helpful, and we'll surely want to see you more in the future. Hope we will be keep connected. If you have any requirement for any speaker, you can let me know. I will also do the sessions. So thank you very much, both of you. It was a very nice session, and it was a very helpful session. See you again.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Santosh, for doing this. This is so nice of you to do and share your knowledge with the community. It's great that
Yep,
you
definitely.
can have people spreading. And NgRx is a complex topic, so it's very nice that we have people who can help people on board and the NgRx. Also, just I don't know, selfless promo plug. I'll be doing a number of talks in October about the state in general as part of a number of conferences. I think there's also a day sort of called Dev Days in I think it'll be in India or something. Also in November, and I'm also doing the NgRx the 2-day paid workshop as part of the NG Poland. Which would be also in the end of actually 1 day. Yeah, it's a 1 day part of Poland. So if you want to get also some of the in-depth stuff for that, feel free to join as well. Yeah,
Definitely. You can share the link if you want. I can put it in there.
yeah. The NG Poland's now we'll announce it next week. If you want, you can share. Follow me on Twitter. And follow Santosh on Twitter as well, by the way. Mine's very easy. It's at Alex Okrushko, so my first name, last name on Twitter. So I'll announce, I'll reshare when NG Poland adds the workshop and also announce there the other big presentations that I'll have. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I think I'm already following you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you, Santosh both. Okay. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, both of you. And thank everyone else who were part of this session and who made this training an interactive session. And hope to see all of you once again in the future. Thank you. Thanks, Santosh, once again.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye-bye. Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.